The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce Duriga. I'm editor of the Chicago Catholic, which is a newspaper for the Archdiocese of Chicago. And this is where we take a look and talk to the people who are making the news in our newspaper every issue. And today, as I stumble over this, today we have a special guest. It's Deacon John Vidmar, who is one of the co-founders of Hope's on the Way, which is this really cool program that the deacons put together. It's not a program, but it's a ministry the deacons put together to help people around the country who've been devastated. Their homes have been devastated by natural disasters or storms or tornadoes or all that kind of stuff, which there seems to be more and more of. So, John, welcome to Beyond the Headlines.
Joyce, thanks for the invitation to spend a couple minutes talking about the work of Hope's on the Way, not just around the United States, but also within the Archdiocese of Chicago.
So you guys got started after Hurricane Katrina. Can you tell a little bit about the beginnings of your ministry?
Yeah, and I will, and I want to correct one thing. I'm not one of the founders. I jumped in later on.
Okay.
I missed the Katrina portion, but we had one of our deacons at the time was working for the Carmelites, and the Carmelites were devastated in New Orleans. They lost a high school, they lost a rectory, they lost a convent, and a lot of their parishioners in that area where they serve in New Orleans were also devastated. So our deacons got together and decided to jump in and help them. And over the next 3 years, we almost had a constant average of about 6 people working in New Orleans helping to rebuild various facilities. And that was the beginning of it, and that gave us the impetus for looking at continuing to do that work for other natural disasters. So
talk about how you do specifically with the buckets, and then some of how it gets to be a broader reach from them.
Yeah, glad to talk about. One of the things we discovered as we went out on these missions, and we were on missions in all over Louisiana and Mississippi, we've been down to Florida, and we ran into other Christian denominations who also had disaster recovery operations, and we discovered a program called Buckets of Hope. And what this is that people would raise money to buy 5-gallon buckets, distribute them to their congregations, give them a list of 14 cleaning supplies to buy, and then they would bring these back, sort them, and then ship them to disasters. Kind of like not immediate. The first recovery after a disaster is always just clearing the mess out, but the second recovery is where people go in and do cleanup, and that's where our buckets are very helpful. We've shipped buckets from Galveston, Texas to Florida. One of our deacons retired to Puerto Rico. We actually managed to get about 300 buckets to Puerto Rico when Cardinal Tsupich was down there on a papal visit. So this program has been very successful. We ship about 1,000 buckets a year. Each bucket's worth about $30. And so it's quite a bit of money that's gone out. We figured that we've shipped close to $150,000 worth of buckets over the last 5 or 6 years to all parts of the United States.
And what goes into the buckets? You said cleaning supplies, but what's
things you'd find in your household? So there's laundry detergent, there's dishwashing detergent, there's air fresheners, there's gloves, there's masks, there's laundry bags, you name it. It's a kind of clothesline, anything that's practical to help people clean up the mess that they've run into. That's a great picture right now. We have a picture of one of our volunteers working on the front porch of the retreat house, stuffing buckets.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening, we're also on YouTube, and we've got some photos that our photo editor, Karen Calloway, has taken. We've covered Hope's on the Way several times, and this was one time when they were packing all the buckets. Now, you guys are super resourceful, right, with getting the buckets and then also with logistics. I've been impressed with that.
Yes, Joyce. One of the things that helps is that, and I want to emphasize that Hope's on the Way is not just a diaconate ministry. About half of our members are lay people. So we say this is a diaconate-led ministry. One of our members worked for Allied Van Lines his whole entire career, and he has a relationship with them. And when we need to ship to a particular location, We contact them. They put out a note out to their network of drivers, and all their drivers are independents. We try to find somebody who's running a deadhead or a partial load to that area, and then try to recruit them to come. And what we do is we tip them. And to our amazement, about half the drivers never take the tip. They do this just because it's a good thing to do. And that helps us get from Chicago to Galveston, or Chicago to New Orleans, or Chicago to Birmingham, Alabama, or Chicago to Panama City, Florida. So it's been very effective for getting buckets almost at no cost to places of disasters.
And these are pictures now that we're seeing when you put together buckets for the north suburbs that got those tornadoes. Was it a year ago, 2 years ago now?
This was actually Southwest, and we're at one of the St. Scholastica's in Darien in the Joliet Diocese. They got devastated 2 years ago by a tornado that ripped through there and actually damaged part of the rectory and the garages of the church. So we got buckets over to that parish as well.
And parishes help you out by running drives, right?
In fact, we're launching drives right now. Advent's a good time to do drives. We raise the money for the buckets, and then what we do is we try to distribute 20, 30 buckets to parishes to get them commit to fill those. And then we have people bring them back here to the retreat house in Lamont, and we sort through and organize them and get them ready to ship on a trucker.
It's a nice, simple kind of ministry, but it makes such a huge impact. What have you heard from people that you've been able to distribute these to?
They've been kind of amazed. What's been kind of interesting is that they don't expect to get buckets. Usually they get water and all kinds of things, and this is a very practical kind of thing that really addresses a really specific need that they have right there. Let me just add one more thing about this. You said that this is kind of a nice, safe, easy ministry. What we like about it is that we get a lot of senior groups helping us reorganize buckets. We've gotten kids from religious ed programs. We've had schools jump in. It's a kind of program that you can do that's extremely safe. There isn't any danger. And it's done quickly. In a couple hours, people can sort through a couple hundred buckets without any problem. It's a great activity. It's a great mission activity. It's a great activity of service.
Absolutely. And you've heard from the people that you've helped, right?
We have. Yeah. Like I said before, they're kind of surprised to receive buckets. And then when they open them up, they're surprised to see what's in there. And it really addresses the needs that they have, immediate needs. And then they get to keep the bucket afterwards. And we do a good job of publicizing the ministry. We slap a label with our logo on the front of it, so we'll stay in their household forever.
What does it has meant to the diaconate and the lay people that are involved? What have you seen the impact of on your end of participating in this ministry?
I think what's important a lot of times as deacons, we can get caught up in liturgical activities and evangelization activities, and then we sometimes forget that the diaconate is a call to service. And this is an important way for us to get back to the true calling, going back to the Acts of the Apostles. What were the first deacons called to do? They're called to do service. And so what it is it's an easy way, especially those of us who sometimes, as I've gotten older, I've got some disabilities. So this is something I can participate in that still gives me an opportunity to do service to those who are needy. Deacon Joe Windblad, who was one of the founders, recently had a chance to talk to some people in the Mennonite Church. The Mennonite Church has its own, they've got a very active ministry to people who have been affected by disasters. And they've decided to take a new acronym for their ministry, and they call it ACT. And what it is acknowledge Christ through service. And so we've kind of decided we're going to ask permission and use that as an acronym for Hope's on the Way as well.
That's the other interesting thing that I've found through talking to you and doing the stories and stuff. You're very ecumenical, you're very interreligious.
One of the things that amazed us is when we go to these sites, we're there with Presbyterians and Lutherans, Mennonites, and we sit down and we break bread together. A couple of years ago, we were in Washington, Illinois, when they got hit by the tornado. In one of these non-denominational Baptist, actually it was non-denominational Protestant churches, gave us the use of their pole barn, and the minister who was in charge of the church invited us in for lunch. And so we had, I don't know, probably 15, 20 people around a table. We were building sheds for people who had their homes destroyed. And he looks up, we prayed, we started to eat. Then he looks up and he says, I thought all you Catholics are damned. He says, but here we are, you're working with us, we're breaking bread together. And I realized that we all believe in the same God. It was a very moving moment.
How do you find out like who to help? Or do you just pick a place that might be accessible? Because I think of you guys, the California was hit with all that flooding, and there's storms coming through now through the Northeast and all of that. How do you figure out who to help?
What we do is we pay attention to the news. And so fortunately, the news media is pretty organized. As soon as we hear of tornadoes, hurricanes, flooding, we jump on the web and we look for local contacts. And our local contacts are often the local diaconate office. There'll be the local Catholic Charities operation. And often in severe disasters, the local county will set up an emergency management service organization. So we contact one of those three and work them to determine if they have any use for our bucket programs or for a mission. That's been our most effective way. It's what we've done is we've actually told people, look, if you can't help us physically, we need people to sit there and just jump on the net. Sometimes it takes us a couple hours to get through to find the right person. And that background work is very important to the mission of service that we do with these the buckets programs and the missions.
And I remember too, when in Michigan, it was Pontiac with the water. You guys managed to get a big shipment of water, and the folks, was it Jewel Osco who donated trucks to go?
We had, it was I'll get the name wrong, Van Stoven, right across the border from us in Gary. What they did is they told us if we raised money for the water, they would organize their trucks to get them up. This was to Flint, Michigan, where they were having the water problems with leaded pipes, no longer being able to deliver clean water. We delivered probably 4 or 5 truckloads filled to the brim with water. And the water came from places like Jewel Osco. We worked our network, the diaconate network, all through Northwest Indiana, as well as across Northern Indiana, to get large donations of water cases. And then also many people gave us money. So what we did is we used that money to buy from that operation in Northwest Indiana additional water to put on the trucks.
Yeah, I'm always amazed.
We delivered that.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That all went to the local Catholic Charities office in Flint.
I'm always amazed at how resourceful you all are. Okay, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about how parishes can connect with you and help, and then also, right now you're at St. Mary's Retreat Center, and that plays a big role in Hope's on the Way. So we'll talk more when we get back. Don't go away, everybody.
Community is core to Catholic Charities' founding mission. For more than 100 years, we have met people and families where they are, serving anyone in need, regardless of their faith, gender, race, or ethnicity. As our world absorbs the economic, political, and social aftershocks of the pandemic, 50% or more of the 6 million people living in Cook and Lake counties have little or no savings. They are a paycheck away from zero. We are deeply grateful to everyone in the Catholic Charities community who partners with us to alleviate the suffering of the people we serve and offer them a better path forward. We are witnessing a message of mercy and hope to a world very much in need. Learn more at CatholicCharities.net.
I can't imagine myself going into any other school.
Our school fosters growth by being a backbone to our family.
My kids are incredibly well-rounded. I see a lot of kindness in them on a daily basis.
One of the things I think Catholic schools do well is personalize the learning experience. You can hear joy in the classrooms.
I feel that I'm happy that I am in this kind of school. Our school communities provide students with academic excellence and character education in a supportive and stable learning environment. Come see for yourself. Visit archchicago.org/findaschool.
Catholic Charities Refugee Resettlement Program has been especially busy this year, assisting individuals and families who have fled dangerous situations in their homeland, including Afghanistan and the Ukraine. The Refugee Resettlement Team helps with everything they need to start to rebuild their lives in a new country, including housing, employment, clothing, food, English classes, and referrals for legal and immigration services. The refugees are tremendously grateful for the compassion and practical help they're receiving, and they're giving back and helping each other plan for a brighter, safer future. Volunteer opportunities are currently available for those who would like to be family mentors and tutors so children and adults can practice English. To learn more about these rewarding opportunities, call 312-655-7096. That's 312-655-7096.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce Duriga. I'm editor of the Chicago Catholic. And before we get back to our guest this week, I wanted to plug the newspaper. You can keep in touch with us at chicagocatholic.com, where we post all our stories on the good news that's going on around the Archdiocese. Cardinal Cupich regularly writes in this latest issue, he's talking about liturgical reform and Pope Francis. You can subscribe to our newspaper for $30 a year. That supports our ministry. And we publish about every 2 weeks. And then you can also follow us on social media or sign up for free e-newsletter that we send out about 3 times a week. And in this latest issue, besides Cardinal Cupich, we've got some Lenten reflections. We also have a really fun story about the bowling alley at Immaculate Conception Church on Talcott, which is 100 years old and is the oldest continuously run bowling alley in the city of Chicago. So it's a fun story that, and a unique story to the Archdiocese of Chicago. So we're talking to Deacon John Vidmar, who's one of, not the founder, but one of the leaders of, or the people who are in charge of the diaconate-led ministry called Hopes on the Way, where they provide buckets with cleaning materials and all kinds of supplies that are needed to places around the country that have seen some kind of natural disaster. So, John, do you want to talk about how parishes can get in touch with you and
Sure.
do these kinds of, do a bucket fundraising ministry for you?
Yeah, there are a couple different ways. We have our own website, hopesontheway.com. We're going to switch it over to an org hopefully soon. So they've got information how to send us a check. You can also call or send a check to the diaconate office in Forest Park. We strongly encourage people to contact the local deacons at their parishes. The diaconate community itself is one of the largest donors that we have to this cause. Many deacons donate to our Buckets programs and our Sheds for Hope programs and our disaster recovery programs. And so any of those 3 ways, you can send it directly to us, you can send it to the diaconate office, or you can contact you can also contact your local deacon at your parish in order to find out how to get involved in the Bucket program.
So today, as people who are watching on YouTube can see your background, you're at St. Mary's Retreat House, and that's kind of where you kind of use as the hub for when you're doing packaging and kind of all the logistics.
Yeah, it is. So I've probably got an unusual background that you usually don't see on your podcasts. What I've got behind me is a tool crib. And so my office serves not only as the office for St. Mary's Retreat House, but also serves as a place that we store a lot of the tools that we use for the Hopes on the Way ministry. We've got a whole workshop in one of the extra rooms in the retreat house. And so not only do we use this as a focal point for organizing buckets, but we're oftentimes called to do projects around the Archdiocese. Cardinal George, back probably almost 15 years ago, turned to us and said, you guys go all over the country looking for disasters. What about disasters within the Archdiocese of Chicago?
Yeah.
So we got involved in helping ministries such as the Chaos House, which is a halfway house to men who've been incarcerated previously or are homeless. We help out Aid for Women. We've helped build out counseling centers for them up in Milwaukee. We've helped with their Monica's House up on the north side of Chicago near Irving and Kedzie. We've helped out at other homes that they have in counseling centers. We've helped out with ministries such as Emmaus House, which was Emmaus Ministries was founded by one of our deacons almost 20 years ago, and it's an outreach program to gay prostitutes. We've been at parishes like St. Nick's up on the north side. We've been down in Pullman. We've been down in Posen. A lot of parishes, if they're struggling for funds to do special projects, we'll jump in to work with local parishioners in order to do things which are kind of relatively safe. We know our limits in terms of what kind of things we can take on.
And when you're saying that, what you're talking about is like construction and repairs. I want people to be clear. These guys are extremely talented. I've known John a long time, and he can fix probably anything. And his friend, Deacon Joe Vidmar, same way, you know, and so they're really helping with construct and saving a lot of money for these organizations and doing really good jobs.
But we're fortunate within the diaconate community. We have licensed electrical contractors and plumbers, people who've got experience in carpentry. So we've actually studded walls for the Hope for, I just forgot, in various counseling centers. We can do, fortunately, since we have supervision for licensed electrical contracting work, we could do some light electrical. We won't install a panel box, but if people need extra runs installed, we can do that. We can do all the mechanical work ahead of time to permit a licensed electrical contractor to finish. We've done all kinds of things. Right now we got a request to build out some cabinets for a trailer park with some poor people down in one of the southwest suburbs. And so we're looking at plans on how to make this efficiently to be able to put new cabinets into a series of trailer parks. So we've done, St. Peter's downtown has been running for quite a few years, a food program on Tuesday, Wednesday nights. It's a street program where they go up and down State Street in Lower Wacker. And we've built a cart that they use for distributing sandwiches and hot liquids. And so we'll take on special projects like this as long as it's somehow ministry related.
It's been pretty amazing. And I wanted you to share a little bit about St. Mary Retreat House. You also have kind of been drafted or inherited that role to help run St. Mary. And I'll tell you what, folks, if you get a chance to go to the Slovenian mission or in the grounds where St. Mary's is in Lamont, you will not be disappointed. It is absolutely beautiful. They also have a small man-made pond that has the stations around it. It's a beautiful place to just go and kind of reflect and spend time with Jesus. But John, will you tell people about the retreat center?
Sure, be happy to. The first ministerial assignment I had was at St. Stephen's in the city. My pastor and I closed that back in 1998-99, and that now is the site for Cristo Rey High School. He retired, came out here to Lamont, took over this retreat house, and back around 2016 became disabled. He was hospitalized a number of times, went into rehab. And my current pastor, I'm assigned as the deacon to the Slovenian Catholic Mission in Lamont, which is on the same grounds. He asked me if I would just run the retreat house for 6 months. And so I had a little bit of experience with it because my former pastor, as he got disabled, asked me to come in and open up and close since I was here anyway. Then what he did is he asked me to sit in the office on Saturday afternoons. And in order to do that, he had to tell me about, I didn't realize that most of the retreats that we ran were AA retreats. I knew nothing about, I had no background in substance abuse. And I've become heavily involved in the 12-step process. What's helpful about that is that the retreat house was not in good shape, and I managed to recruit people out of the AA community retreatants, our parishioners, as well as fellow deacons in the Hopes on the Way program. We've basically spent the last 7 years rebuilding this facility, and we've just about tripled during that period of time the number of people who come on retreats here. So it's clean. It's a very spiritual place. And Joyce, you're right. We sit on beautiful grounds. There's over 100 acres here. This is one of the largest sections of undeveloped Cook County. We have the School Sisters of St. Francis are next door to us. They have 77 acres. We have 100. Right down the street is Franciscan Village. So this is Franciscan Row. Across the street is the Forest Preserve with the canal path. and behind us is Cog Hill. So last night, as I was pulling out, I had to stop the car. It was already dusk, and we had a herd of deer that was feeding right in front of the retreat house. So it's a beautiful area to come to meditate, to pray, and we encourage people. And I keep an extra set of Stations of the Cross at the front desk for people who come in and like to do the Stations of the Cross. So welcome anytime, daylight hours.
And you do something at Christmas. Your son, Joe, does.
Yes.
Can you tell people about that real quick?
His business partner do for the 6 years now. They've done something called a Festival of Lights. So they set up about 5,000 lights starting from the treehouse going around the lake through the Lourdes Grotto. We have a Rosary Valley of the Seven Joyful Mysteries of the Franciscan Rosary. The whole place is lit up. We set up a train display in the treehouse for the kids. And we serve some hot chocolate and some munchies. It's a great place to come and start celebrating Christmas.
It's a fun family event. And you raise bees, right?
We do. And I got into this, the Franciscan Fathers here have kept bees since 1939, when the last Franciscan Father was incapable of doing that, which is back around 2011. I had a good friend of mine who's a beekeeper who got me into this because I was suffering from allergies, and he said, "You need to try my honey. It's all natural, it's organic, it's from the area." And since then, we took over keeping the bees, and we have about 8 hives that we maintain. And we sell the honey and use all the proceeds in order to maintain the property. It all goes right back into the property. And it's a great fun habit to have.
Yeah, it is. John gave me some honey, and I can tell you that it's very good. And so folks, I would really encourage you to take a look at this ministry. Hope is on the way. You can Google it, find their website, or on Facebook, and working on getting a new website and switching it over, as he said, to a nonprofit status. So check out St. Mary Retreat House and check out the Slovenian Mission in Lamont, and if you have some time, maybe in the spring on a day you're not doing anything, go up and take a walk around. They're doing lots of good stuff, and our deacons in this archdiocese are amazing. I mean, we've got the largest, as you said, diaconate community in the country, and there's never an end to the stories that we can do about the work that the deacons are doing. And also, I'll give a last plug to the newspaper. You can check us out at chicagocatholic.com and subscribe for about $30 a year, which goes to support our ministry. You can follow us on social media and sign up for our free newsletters. You can always find out what Cardinal Supich is doing, and in the latest issue, like I said, we had the 100-year-old bowling alley at Immaculate Conception School. We also have a story about the Korean mission, who celebrated Lunar New Year. We've covered Lunar New Year a lot in the Archdiocese and the Chicago Catholic, but this is the first time we've covered the Korean community, so that's been fun for us. And that's about it. Check us out, chicagocatholic.com. And John, always a pleasure to see you and talk to you, and support your ministry in any way we can do it.
Yeah, thank you, Joyce. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about Hope's on the Way.
You're welcome. All right, till next time, everybody. We'll see you later, and have a good day.